David, thank you. Well, hello, everybody. So here we are. It's Spoken World Online week number 109. And I missed you all the last few weeks. But I've been traveling, have some poems coming out of that, but they're not ready yet. So having just returned last night from Los Angeles, I thought I'd read a couple of poems by Charles Bukowski from his collection, War All the Time. And the last generation. It was much easier to be a genius in the 20s. There were only 3 or 4 literary magazines, and if you got into them 4 or 5 times, you could end up in Gertie's parlor. You could possibly meet Picasso for a glass of wine, or maybe only Miro. And yes, if you sent your stuff postmarked from Paris, chances of publication became much better. Most writers bottomed their manuscripts with the word Paris and the date. And with a patron, there was time to write, eat, drink, and take drives to Italy and sometimes Greece. It was good to be photoed with others of your kind. It was good to look tidy, enigmatic, and thin. Photos taken on the beach were great. And yes, you could write letters to the 15 or 20 others bitching about this and that. You might get a letter from Ezra or from Hem. Ezra liked to give directions, and Hem liked to practice his writing in his letters when he couldn't do the other. It was a romantic, grand game then, full of the fury of discovery. Now there are so many of us, hundreds of literary magazines, hundreds of presses, thousands of titles. Who is to survive out of all this mulch? It's almost improper to ask. I go back, I read the books about the lives of the boys and girls of the 20s. If they were the lost generation, what would you call us? Sitting here among the warheads with our electric touch typewriters? The last generation? I'd rather be lost than last, but as I read these books about them, I feel a gentleness and a generosity. As I read of the suicide of Harry Crosby in his hotel room with his whore, that seems as real to me as the faucet dripping now in my bathroom sink. I like to read about them. Joyce, blind and prowling the bookstores like a tarantula, they said. Dos Passos with his clipped newscasts using a pink typewriter ribbon. DH, horny and pissed off. HD being smart enough to use her initials, which seemed much more literary than Hilda Doolittle. G.B. Shaw, long established as noble and dumb as royalty, flesh and brain turning to marble, a bore. Huxley promenading his brain with great glee, arguing with Lawrence that it wasn't in the belly and the balls, that the glory was in the skull. And that Hick Sinclair Lewis coming to light. Meanwhile, the revolution being over, the Russians were liberated and dying. Gorky with nothing to fight for, sitting in a room trying to find phrases praising the government, many others broken in victory. Now there are so many of us, but we should be grateful. For in 100 years, if the world is not destroyed, think how much there will be left of all of this. Nobody really able to fail or to succeed, just relative merit diminished further by our numerical superiority. We will all be cataloged and filed. All right. If you still have doubts of those other golden times, there were other curious creatures: Richard Aldington, Teddy Dreiser, F. Scott, Hart Crane, Wyndham Lewis, the Black Sun Press. But to me, the 20s centered mostly on Hemingway, coming out of the war and beginning to type. It was all so simple, all so deliciously clear. Now, there are so many of us. Ernie, you had no idea how good it had been. 4 decades later, when you blew your brains into the orange juice, although I grant you, that was not your best work. And one more short one, if there's time for that. This is talking to my mailbox. Boy, don't come around here telling me you can't cut it, that they're pitching you low and inside, that they are conspiring against you, that all you want is a chance, but they won't give you a chance. Boy, the problem is that you're not doing what you want to do. Or if you're doing what you want to do, you're just not doing it well. Boy, I agree. There's not much opportunity. And there are some at the top who are not doing much better than you are, but you're wasting energy haranguing and bitching. Boy, I'm not advising, just suggesting that instead of sending your poems to me, along with your letters of complaint, you should enter the arena. Send your work to the editors and publishers. It will buck up your backbone and your versatility. Boy, I wish to thank you for the praise for some of my published works, but that has nothing to do with anything and won't help a purple shit. You've just got to learn to hit that low, hard inside pitch. This is a form letter. I send it to almost everybody, but I hope you take it personally, man. Thanks, everybody.